Marrow Glen.
I didn't mean to take Route 17. If I'm being honest, I don't even remember deciding to. I was driving west from Ohio toward Indiana, long past midnight, following my GPS like a good little machine. The highway was empty. The radio kept losing signal, and the road felt stretched, longer than it should have been. That kind of tired where your eyes stay open but your brain slips in and out. That's when the GPS voice went quiet. The screen flickered once, froze, then recalculated. A calm blue line appeared where none had been before. "In 1 mile, take exit 117, the voice said. That caught my attention because I knew Route 17. I'd driven it dozens of times. There was no exit 117. The exit skipped from 115 to 118. I even remembered joking about it once, wondering what happened to 117. I laughed it off. GPS glitches happen. Then I saw the sign. Green, reflective, bolted into the dirt shoulder like it had always been there. Exit 117, Marrow Glen, 1 mile. I slowed down. No other cars, no headlights, just trees pressing close on both sides, their branches arching inward like they were leaning to listen. The mile marker ticked past. 116. Then another sign appeared, closer this time. Welcome to Marrow Glen. Population 1,102. That number bothered me. Town population signs usually don't look freshly painted. This one did. No rust, no bullet holes, no graffiti. It looked new. I should have kept driving. Instead, I took the exit. The ramp dipped down sharply, too steep for a rural road, and the moment I passed beneath the overpass, my phone lost signal entirely. Not one bar, nothing, like it had never known what service was. Marrow Glen sat in a shallow valley. One main road, 2 gas pumps, a diner with a single light on inside. Everything looked normal at first glance, too normal. Houses evenly spaced, lawns trimmed, porch lights glowing softly, all the same warm color. No people. I drove slowly through town. My headlights swept across windows, but I never saw movement behind the curtains. No TVs flickering, no dogs barking. Just the sound of my tires and the low hum of the engine. At the far end of town stood a wooden sign, hand-carved instead of printed. You are safe while you are remembered. I didn't understand it then. I wish I had. I pulled into the gas station, mostly because my hands were shaking and I needed an excuse to stop. The pumps were old, manual dials instead of digital, but the station itself smelled clean, like fresh pine cleaner. The bell above the door rang when I stepped inside. A man stood behind the counter, late 50s maybe, gray hair, neatly combed. He smiled like he'd been waiting. "You're late." "For what?" I asked. He tilted his head slightly. "For passing through." I told him I just needed gas, maybe directions. My GPS wasn't working. He nodded too quickly. That happens here. I noticed a large ledger book on the counter, thick and worn. Names filled the open page, dates next to each one. I glanced down and froze. The last name written was mine. First and last, spelled right. Today's date. I looked back up at the man. "How did you—" He closed the book gently. "Everyone who comes through Marrow Glen gets written down. That's how the town remembers you." A cold realization crept into my chest. What happens if I leave? The smile faded, just a little. "Well," he said, "most people don't." Outside, somewhere in the town, I heard something heavy being dragged across pavement, slowly, deliberately, and for the first time since I'd taken exit 117, I understood something was very, very wrong.
I didn't leave the gas station right away. That dragging sound outside had stopped the moment I turned back toward the counter, like whatever was making it knew I was listening. The man behind the register stood perfectly still, hands resting on the ledger, as if it was something alive that might try to escape. "You wrote my name down before I got here," I said. He didn't deny it. That was the worst part. "We don't write," he corrected gently. "The town does." I laughed, sharp, nervous. "That doesn't make any sense." "It doesn't need to," he replied. "Marrow Glen isn't for understanding, it's for staying." I backed toward the door. The bell above it jingled again as I pushed it open, the sound echoing too loudly in the empty street. The air outside felt heavier than before, like humidity before a storm, but colder. The town lights flickered, not all at once, one by one, porch lights dimming, then brightening again, as if houses were blinking. I got into my car and turned the key. Nothing. The engine didn't even try. No clicking, no struggle, just dead silence. I checked my phone again out of habit. Still no signal, no GPS, no service bars. The time display was frozen at 12:17 a.m. I looked back at the gas station window. The man was gone. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, listening. Somewhere in town I heard footsteps, slow, unhurried, not one set, several, moving on sidewalks, crossing streets, circling. I locked the doors. A figure stepped into my headlights, a woman, maybe mid-30s, wearing a cardigan and jeans like she'd just stepped out to check the mail. She smiled and waved. "Hey there," she called. "You passing through?" I cracked the window an inch. "Yeah, just car trouble." She nodded sympathetically. "That happens here." The same words. "What town is this exactly?" I asked. "Marrow Glen," she said, like she was proud of it. "Been here all my life." "How do I get back to Route 17? Her smile twitched. "Why would you want to?" Before I could answer, a man appeared beside her, then another behind him, an older couple across the street, a teenager leaning against a mailbox. They emerged quietly, naturally, like townsfolk gathering for a parade. All of them were smiling. None of them blinked. "You're new," the teenager said. "We don't get many new ones anymore." New what? I tried the ignition again. The engine turned over this time, but instead of starting, the radio clicked on by itself. Static filled the car. Then a voice cut through. My voice. Didn't mean to take Route 17. I slammed the radio off, heart hammering. The woman stepped closer. "We heard you on the road," she said. "You sounded tired." "How do you know my name?" I demanded. The older man chuckled softly. "Everyone knows everyone here. That's how we keep each other." A child's voice came from somewhere behind me, right outside the rear window. "Don't forget us." I whipped around. A little boy stood inches from the trunk, pale face lit by my brake lights. His eyes were wrong, not empty, not glowing, just too focused, like he was looking through me instead of at me. "I won't," I said, not knowing why. "I promise." The boy smiled wider than his face should allow. "That's what they all say." The town lights shut off completely. Darkness swallowed Marrow Glen, except for my headlights, and in their beam, every single person was still standing there, unblinking, smiling. Then, at all once, they spoke. "Stay." The word pressed into my skull like a physical force. My ears rang, my vision blurred. For a terrifying second, I couldn't remember why staying was bad. The town felt warm, familiar, like a place I'd grown up but somehow forgotten. Then I remembered the ledger, the dates, the way my name looked final on the page. I slammed my foot on the gas. The engine screamed, and the car lurched forward, plowing through the empty space where the people had been standing. They were gone. No footsteps, no movement, no bodies, just the road ahead leading deeper into town. And behind me, written faintly in the dust on my rear window, traced by unseen fingers, "Remember us." I drove. Not carefully, not rationally. I floored the accelerator and let instinct take over, headlights slicing through darkness as the road curved sharply to the right, then left, then downhill. The buildings thinned out, replaced by trees again, and for a brief, stupid moment, I thought I'd found my way out. Then the gas station appeared in my rearview mirror. I slammed the brakes so hard my seatbelt cut into my chest. Same pumps, same peeling paint, same crooked sign buzzing faintly in the night. I was back where I started. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I turned the car around and took the opposite road. This time I counted the turns out loud. Right, straight, left, long downhill stretch, no side roads, no intersections. The diner's neon sign flickered ahead. Marrow Glen Diner, open 24 hours. My hands were numb. The diner hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. I passed it without slowing. Trees swallowed the road again. I kept driving until my speedometer crept past 60, then 70, the engine whining in protest. Then I saw the sign. "Welcome to Marrow Glen. Population 1,103. I nearly screamed. The number had changed. I pulled over and got out of the car. The night air felt wrong, too still, like the sound had been turned down. My footsteps didn't echo. They didn't seem to make noise at all. I walked up to the sign and touched it, warm, like it had just been handled. Behind me, someone cleared their throat. "You shouldn't wander. It confuses the town." I spun around. The gas station man stood a few feet away, hands folded neatly behind his back. "You said most people don't leave. What happens to the ones who do?" He considered that. "They leave pieces." "Pieces of what?" He gestured toward the road. "Of themselves. Memories mostly. Names, faces, sometimes places." I laughed, a dry, broken sound. "You're saying this town eats people." He frowned. "Eats is such an ugly word. Then what do you call it?" "Remembers them," he said softly. The diner's neon buzzed louder behind us. I realized then that it wasn't flickering randomly. It was pulsing, like a heartbeat. I noticed something else too. The sky hadn't changed. No stars, no moon movement. It was the same frozen patch of night I'd seen since arriving. My phone still read 12:17 a.m. "How long have I been here?" I asked. The man didn't answer right away. "That depends," he said carefully, "on how much of you is still yours." I ran. I didn't know where I was going, just away from him, away from the sign, away from that awful steady glow. I crashed through underbrush, branches tearing at my clothes, thorns digging into my skin. The woods felt tighter than they should have been, trees growing too close together, their trunks bending inward. I burst out onto a road, not Route 17. It was narrower, cracked and lined with old mailboxes. Names were carved into them, dozens of names. I recognized some, people from my life, my high school teacher, a former co-worker, my neighbor from 3 apartments ago. Then I saw one that made my stomach drop. My father's name. He'd been missing for 6 years. I heard whispering, not from one place, but everywhere. I remember him. He stayed. He forgot. Hands brushed my shoulders as I staggered backward. Shapes moved between the trees, people I half recognized, faces blurring like smeared photographs. Some of them wore expressions of relief, others looked angry, a few looked empty. "You can still keep your name," a voice said close to my ear, the gas station man again. "Most don't manage that." "What do I have to do?" I asked. He pointed back toward town. "Live here, be known, be remembered." I looked at the mailboxes, at the names carved deep, letters worn smooth by years of touching. If I stayed, the town would keep me. If I left, I might leave everything else behind. And somewhere deep in my chest, something terrible whispered that forgetting might be easier.
I followed him back toward town, not because I trusted him, but because every other direction led me right back to Marrow Glen anyway. The woods thinned as we walked, and the road smoothed beneath my feet, like the town itself was making the path easier now that I'd stopped resisting. The diner came into view again, neon humming steadily, red light washing the street like a warning that never finished sounding. Inside, it was warm, too warm. The smell of coffee and grease hit me first, comforting in a way that made my skin crawl. Every booth was occupied. Men and women sat shoulder to shoulder, eating, talking, laughing softly. At first glance, it looked like a normal late-night crowd. Then I noticed the details. No steam rose from the food. Forks moved, but nothing was ever lifted. Coffee cups were raised, lowered, raised again, never emptied. They were performing hunger. The gas station man gestured for me to sit. "You'll feel better once you understand." I slid into a booth across from a woman about my age. She studied my face intently, eyes shining. "You still look solid," she said. "That's good." "Solid?" I asked. She pressed her fingertips into the table. "You cast a reflection." I glanced toward the chrome napkin dispenser. My face stared back, pale but intact. "Yes," I said. Relief flickered through the diner. Quiet murmurs followed. "He's still whole, not yet thinned, not written over." The woman leaned closer. "They don't tell you this part. When you stay, the town takes a copy first." "A copy of what?" I asked. "Of you." The lights flickered, and for a brief moment, the diner doubled. I saw 2 versions of the same room overlapping, one clean and warm, the other darker, older, cracked like a photograph left in the sun too long. The gas station man set the ledger on the table. "You see," he said, opening it, "Marrow Glen can't create, it can only keep." I scanned the pages. Some names were dark and bold, others faint, barely visible. Entire entries had been crossed out and rewritten, sometimes multiple times. "What happens to the originals?" I asked. The woman answered softly, "They fade." A bell rang above the diner door. A man walked in, and my heart stopped. It was me, not a mirror image, an earlier version. Same jacket, same scuffed boots, same exhausted slump in the shoulders. He looked around confused, exactly the way I must have when I first arrived. Everyone in the diner watched him with quiet anticipation. "That's the copy," the gas station man said. "Or you are, hard to tell at first." The other me spotted me and froze. "Who are you?" he asked. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I tried to say my name and couldn't remember it. Panic tore through me. The woman grabbed my wrist. "Careful," she warned. "The town takes that early if you fight." The other me turned and ran. The bell rang again, and then everything shifted. A weight lifted from my chest. The panic dulled. I suddenly felt comfortable, like I'd been here before, like I belonged in this booth, in this town, in this moment that never moved forward. "That's better," the gas station man said approvingly. "You're starting to settle." "What did you do to him?" I asked, though the urgency was already draining from my voice. "Nothing," he said. "He's leaving." I stood up. My legs felt heavy, like I'd been sitting too long. "If he leaves, what happens to me?" The woman smiled sadly. "You stay." The lights flickered again, harder this time. When they steadied, the diner looked slightly different. New cracks in the ceiling, older stains on the floor, the ledger pages yellowed further. I realized then that time did move here. It just moved through people. "You replace them," I said. The gas station man nodded. "Eventually." Outside, a scream echoed briefly, cut off too fast. The bell rang one final time. No one entered. The ledger's pen moved by itself, scratching softly. Another name fading, another one darkening. I looked down at my hands. They were still solid, for now. I woke up, sitting in the diner booth. No memory of falling asleep, no sense of time passing. Just the sudden awareness that my eyes were open and the world had continued without asking me. The diner was quieter now. Not empty, just subdued. Fewer people. Same faces, though. They sat in the same booths, wearing the same expressions, repeating the same gestures like actors stuck between takes. Across from me, the woman watched carefully. "You drifted," she said. "That happens." I rubbed my face. It felt real, warm, solid, still mine. "How long was I out?" I asked. She hesitated. "For you? A few minutes." "For him?" I asked. Her eyes dropped. I stood and staggered outside before she could stop me. The town looked different in daylight, or what passed for it. The sky was a dull, permanent gray, like a photograph overexposed and never corrected. Shadows didn't move. They clung to buildings in the same shapes, no matter where I stood. I walked down the main street. People nodded as I passed. "Morning. Good to see you. Glad you're still with us." They said it like reassurance, like warning. The storefront window caught my reflection, and my stomach tightened. It wasn't wrong, but it wasn't right either. The posture was straighter, the eyes calmer. The tension I'd carried for years, stress, grief, exhaustion, was smoothed over, like the town had sanded me down into a more acceptable version. I didn't look like me. I looked like someone Marrow Glen preferred. I ran. No looping this time, no sudden returns. The streets let me pass freely, almost eagerly, as if the town wanted me to see something. I reached the old motel at the edge of town. Its sign buzzed weakly. Vacancy. Inside, the office smelled like dust and lemon cleaner. A wall of keys hung behind the desk. Every tag had a name carved into it instead of a room number. Mine was already there. Room 6. My hand shook as I took it. The room looked lived in. Clothes folded on the bed. My clothes. A duffel bag I recognized sat by the door. On the nightstand lay my wallet. Inside was my ID. Same photo as always. Different expiration date. 10 years from now. On the desk stood a framed photograph. Me, standing in front of the Marrow Glen sign, smiling, one arm around the gas station man like an old friend. On the back, written in careful ink, first year, settling in nicely. A knock came at the door. I opened it slowly. He stood there, the other me, but he looked damaged. His eyes darted constantly. His clothes were torn. His face seemed thinner, less focused, like someone viewed through fogged glass. "You took my place," he hissed. "No," I said. "You're leaving." He laughed, a broken sound. "You think leaving means escaping?" His hand brushed mine, and cold shot through my arm. For a second, my fingers went numb. "You feel it, don't you?" he said. "The hollowing." I did. A faint emptiness beneath my thoughts, like something important had been removed, but I couldn't remember what it was. "They're carving me away," he whispered. "Every mile I forget something. Faces, streets, names." "My father," I said suddenly. "Did he?" The other me nodded. "He made it farther than most." Before I could ask more, footsteps echoed in the hallway, calm, measured. The gas station man appeared. "You shouldn't frighten yourself," he said gently. "He's almost gone." "Let him go," I said. "Let both of us go." The man shook his head. "The town only needs one of you." He placed a hand on the other me. The man screamed, not in pain, but in confusion. His outline blurred, his features smeared like wet ink. Then he was gone, not vanished, edited out. The hallway felt warmer, fuller. The gas station man turned to me, smiling with pride. "You fit better. The town chose correctly." Something inside me screamed that this was wrong, that I should be terrified. But the feeling dulled almost immediately, swallowed by a heavy sense of belonging. I looked down at my hands, still solid, still here, but I couldn't remember my father's face anymore. I stopped trying to leave after that. Not consciously, not at first. It was more like the idea itself grew distant, the way a childhood memory does when you don't revisit it often enough. The town didn't restrain me, didn't threaten me.
It didn't have to. Marrow Glen rewarded stillness. Days, or something like days, passed. The sky stayed the same dull gray, but the town moved through routines. I found myself helping without remembering when I'd agreed to, pouring coffee at the diner, restocking shelves at the gas station, nodding to faces I knew without knowing from where. People called me by my name. It sounded right in their mouths. One afternoon, the gas station man, whose name I now knew was Elias, though I couldn't remember learning it, asked me to walk with him to the edge of town. "There's something you should see," he said. We followed a narrow road past the motel, beyond where the pavement cracked and weeds pushed through. The air grew colder the farther we went, and the silence deepened until even our footsteps sounded borrowed. The road ended at a field. Dozens of cars sat there, not wrecked, not abandoned in a hurry, just parked, doors closed, keys still in some ignitions, dust layered thick enough to suggest years, decades. I recognized models from every era: 70s sedans, early 2000s compacts, one electric car that couldn't have been more than a few years old. "These are the ones who left," Elias said. I frowned. "You said most people don't." "They don't," he agreed, "but some try harder than others." I stepped closer. Something felt wrong about the field. The ground dipped unnaturally between the cars, shallow impressions like long-forgotten footprints. "What happens to them?" I asked. Elias gestured toward the tree line. That's when I saw the house. It sat just beyond the field, half hidden by dead trees. A farmhouse, old and sagging, porch tilted, windows dark. The kind of place you don't notice unless you're already looking for something bad. "They almost make it," Elias said. "Far enough that the town can't keep them whole." We approached the house. With each step, a pressure built behind my eyes, like I was about to remember something important and didn't want to. Inside, the air smelled of mold and cold iron. People sat along the walls. Men, women, a few teenagers. They were alive, breathing, blinking, shifting occasionally, but their eyes were empty of place, like they didn't know where they were anymore. One woman looked up as I entered. Hope flared across her face. "Did it work?" she asked me. "Did you get out?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came. Elias answered for me. "Not yet." Her face collapsed. "They send us back," a man muttered from the corner, "but not all the way. They strip the road behind you, piece by piece." I knelt in front of the woman. "How long have you been here?" She stared at her hands. "I don't know. I can't remember what I was running from. I just know I was supposed to be somewhere else." A child tugged my sleeve. "Mister," he asked quietly, "do you know my name?" I didn't. Terror surged through me, and then dulled, smothered by something warm and heavy. Elias rested a hand on my shoulder. "This is why the town chooses carefully," he said. "Some people break when they leave. Others fade." "You let this happen," I said. "We prevent worse," he replied. "Out there, they'd be nothing. Here, they're still remembered."
A thought crept into my mind uninvited. If I left, if I fought, would I end up here, hollow, half erased, waiting for a memory that would never return? As we walked back toward town, I realized something horrifying. I could no longer picture the road that had brought me here. Not Route 17, not the exit, not the sign, just Marrow Glen, warm, familiar, waiting. Behind us, the farmhouse door creaked shut on its own.
I started noticing the gaps first. Small things, innocent things. I'd be mid-conversation and lose track of how it began. I'd reach for a word I knew existed and find nothing but silence where it should have been. Faces in town remained clear, but faces from before blurred, like old photos left too long in the sun. Elias noticed. "The town is testing you," he said, almost fondly. "Testing me for what? To see how much of you it can spare." That night he took me somewhere I hadn't seen before, a basement beneath the diner. The stairs creaked as we descended, each step colder than the last. The smell down there was different, not rot, not mold, something dry, papery. Boxes lined the walls, hundreds of them, each labeled with a name. I stopped walking when I saw mine. "What is this?" I asked. Elias opened a box at random. Inside were objects, mundane, a keychain, a movie ticket stub, a cracked phone case, things that only matter if you remember why they matter. "These are the pieces people leave behind," he said. "The town can't hold everything forever." He handed me a photograph. It showed a woman standing beside me, her arm looped through mine. She was laughing, head thrown back, caught in a moment of real joy. I felt nothing. "Who is she?" I asked. Elias watched my face carefully. "Your wife." The word landed without impact. "I don't remember her," I said. "That means the town doesn't need her anymore." My box was half full. We climbed back upstairs, and that's when I noticed the bus parked outside the diner. Old, gray, no markings. Its door hissed open. A handful of people stood nearby, confused, frightened, clutching small bags. "They're leaving?" I asked. "Yes," Elias said, "being returned." One of them turned toward me, a man about my age, eyes hollow but familiar. "You're from here," he said, uncertainly. "I recognize you." I didn't recognize him at all. The bus driver leaned out. His face was shadowed, indistinct. "Last call," he said. As the bus pulled away, I felt something tear loose inside my chest, a sharp absence, a name, a place, something important, gone. "Where does it take them?" I asked. Elias smiled. "Back." Weeks passed. Then one afternoon, the radio in the gas station crackled to life. A news report. Local authorities are asking for information regarding a man found wandering along Route 17 earlier this morning. He appears disoriented and cannot recall his name. A photo flashed on the small TV behind the counter. The man from the bus, alive, breathing, empty. "They don't remember Marrow Glen," Elias said quietly. "That's the agreement." And you let them go like that? They serve a purpose. That night, something shifted. I found myself standing at the edge of town again. The road beyond looked clearer, sharper, realer. Elias stood beside me. "It's almost time," he said. "For what? For you to return." Panic flared, then dulled. Why me? Because you hold well, and because the world outside is forgetting how to stay. I looked down at my hands. They were beginning to look thin, transparent around the edges. "What happens to the one who comes back?" I asked. Elias met my eyes. "They feel like something's missing," he said. "They look for it. And if they find this place again," his smile widened, "then we keep them forever." The road ahead shimmered. Somewhere deep inside me, a warning screamed, but I could no longer remember what it was trying to protect. I'm telling you this because something went wrong. I know that now. The return wasn't supposed to leave anything behind. That's what Elias promised. Clean edges, no lingering pieces. Just a man walking out of the woods onto Route 17 with a headache, a blank history, and a sense that something important had slipped away. That man was supposed to be me. I remember the road first. Cold asphalt under my boots. Morning light, too bright, too sharp. The sound of traffic rushing past without slowing. A state trooper asking me my name, and me not knowing it. They took me to a hospital, asked questions I couldn't answer, showed me photos I didn't recognize, a life that felt like a story someone else had read aloud and expected me to continue. They released me 3 days later. Probable dissociative fugue, the doctor said. It happens under stress. They didn't know what to do with someone whose past had been edited. I drifted for a while. Shelters, day labor, cheap motels that smelled like bleach and loneliness. I learned how to fake knowing who I was, smiled when people asked harmless questions, changed the subject when they got too close. But something followed me. At night, I dreamed of a town that never aged, a diner that never closed, a ledger that never forgot. I woke up with names on my tongue that dissolved before I could speak them. Then I started noticing signs, exit numbers that skipped, roads that curved a little too neatly back on themselves. And once, just once, I passed a bus parked on the shoulder of Route 17, gray, unmarked, empty. The memory broke through on a rainy afternoon in Indiana. I was sitting in a public library, killing time, flipping through local history archives on a computer I didn't own. A headline caught my eye. Marrow Glen appears on 1931 census, then vanishes. I clicked. The article was thin, poorly scanned, the kind of thing no one reads unless they're already looking for it. It mentioned a small town listed in 2 consecutive census records, then removed entirely in the next. No explanation, no relocation order, no disaster, just gone. Population listed at the time, 1,102. My hands started shaking. I searched for Route 17. Nothing. I searched for Marrow Glen again. A single photograph appeared. Black and white, grainy. A group of townspeople standing in front of a wooden sign. And there, in the center, me. Younger, calmer, smiling like I belonged. On the back of the photo, someone had handwritten, "Still holding." That's when I felt it. A tug, gentle, familiar, like a place remembering me before I remembered it. I didn't drive there right away. I tried to ignore it, to live around the hole in my life instead of looking into it. But the dreams got louder, the names sharper. I started losing time again, hours disappearing, then days. And every time I looked in a mirror, my reflection seemed less certain. So I'm recording this, not as a warning, as a marker, because Elias was wrong about one thing. The town can make mistakes. Sometimes, when it sends someone back, it leaves a thread attached, a memory too stubborn to erase, a name that refuses to fade completely, and threads can be followed. I'm on Route 17 now. My GPS just recalculated. There's an exit ahead. I don't remember being there before. Exit 117. If you're hearing this, really hearing it, pay attention to the roads you don't remember taking, to towns that feel too familiar, too fast. And if you ever see a sign that says, "You are safe while you are remembered," don't stop. Because Marrow Glen remembers me, and I think it's ready to take me back. The exit shouldn't have been there. I'd driven Route 17 enough times after my release to know every curve, every billboard, every gas station that promised clean bathrooms and regret. Exit 117 was never one of them. Until it was. Rain streaked across my windshield as the green sign slid into view, glowing softly like it had been waiting for me alone. Exit 117, Marrow Glen, 1 mile. My GPS didn't announce it. It didn't argue either. The screen simply redrew the route, the blue line bending gently toward the ramp, as if this had always been the plan. I tried to keep driving. My hands refused. The car drifted right, signal clicking on by itself. The tires hummed as they crossed onto the exit ramp, and the moment I passed beneath the overpass, the rain stopped. Not slowed, stopped. The sky beyond was the same dull gray I remembered, timeless, flat, patient. The road dipped, and with it came the feeling, warmth in my chest, relief in my muscles, like returning to a place I hadn't realized I'd missed. Marrow Glen waited at the bottom. The town looked better than I remembered, fresher, cleaner, porch lights glowing in neat symmetry. The diner's neon burned steady and bright, and the sign at the entrance read, "Welcome to Marrow Glen, population 1,103. I laughed softly. "So," I said aloud, "you never let me go." The streets were empty as I drove through, but I knew better now. I could feel them watching from behind curtains, from doorways, from places that weren't quite places at all. I parked in front of the diner. The bell rang when I stepped inside. Everyone was there. The booths were full again, the motions perfect, the smiles practiced. When they saw me, the room breathed out as one. He came back. We knew he would. He remembers. Elias stood near the counter, unchanged, unaged, waiting. "You weren't supposed to," he said, not angry, concerned. "The return worked." "Not completely," I replied. "You left too much behind." He studied me carefully. "And you followed it." "I followed you," I said, "all of you." The ledger lay open on the counter. My name was there, faded, almost gone. "But I'm here now," I said, "so what happens?" The town seemed to lean in. Elias closed the book slowly. "Now we decide." A pressure filled the diner, not forceful, but persuasive. The same warmth that had dulled my fear before. It crept up my spine, into my head, whispering how easy it would be to sit down, to stay, to let the memories slide away again. I saw it then. The cracks. Faces flickering slightly when they thought I wasn't looking. Names on the ledger overwritten too many times. Copies stacked on copies until the ink bled through the pages. "You're running out," I said. Elias's smile thinned. "The world forgets faster than it used to. People pass through without leaving enough behind. So you need anchors, people who remember." He didn't deny it. "You made a mistake with me," I said. "You let me see both sides." Silence. Then the town spoke, not in words, but in feeling. A question pressed into my chest. "Will you stay willingly?" I thought of the farmhouse, of the hollow-eyed people who almost made it, of the copies wearing lives they didn't earn. "No," I said, "but I won't leave empty." The lights flickered violently. The diner doubled again, clean and decayed, overlapping. People clutched their heads. The ledger pages fluttered wildly. "What are you doing?" demanded Elias. "Remembering," I said. Names flooded back, faces, roads, exit numbers, the weight of everything the town had taken, not just from me, but from all of them. The population sign outside creaked. The number wavered. For the first time since I'd known it, Marrow Glen felt unsure. "You can't take it all with you," Elias said. "I don't have to. Just enough." The bell above the door rang, not because someone entered, but because something left.
I don't remember walking out of the diner. I remember the sound instead, a tearing, not loud, not sudden, more like fabric giving way after being stretched too long. The kind of sound you feel in your teeth. The town shuddered. Not buildings collapsing, not streets cracking. Something deeper, structural. Like Marrow Glen had been built on an idea, and that idea was finally being questioned. The ledger slammed shut. Every light in the diner went out at once. For the first time since I'd known it, Marrow Glen was dark. I stood alone in the street. No porch lights, no neon, no watching eyes behind curtains. Just the gray sky overhead, beginning, slowly, to move. Clouds drifted. Time was restarting. The population sign creaked loudly at the edge of town. I walked toward it, every step heavier than the last, like I was wading against a current that wanted me pulled back. The number flickered. 1,103, 1,089, 1,021. Names were being released, not saved, not erased, let go. I felt them pass through me, memories brushing against my thoughts as they fled. Faces I'd never known, roads I'd never walked, lives interrupted and resumed somewhere else, incomplete but real. Behind me, the town whispered, not pleading, afraid.
Elias appeared at my side, and for the first time, he looked old. Lines cut deep into his face. His posture sagged, like he was finally carrying the weight he'd been spared for decades. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said. "I do," I replied. "You weren't keeping people safe. You were hiding them." "The world forgets," he said bitterly. "Out there, they disappear all the same." "Maybe," I said, "but that's not your choice to make." The sign rattled violently. 432, 118, 12. The diner collapsed inward, not falling, but folding, like a memory losing detail. Houses blurred at the edges, streets lost their names. Elias stared at the town in disbelief. We were remembered. That was the rule. It still is, just not the way you thought. I turned toward the road. Route 17 waited beyond the trees, real and solid and loud with passing cars. The exit ramp was already fading. "You can still stay," Elias urgently said. "You can anchor what's left." I looked at him, really looked. He wasn't a keeper. He was the first thing the town ever took. "No," I said, "I'm taking this with me." I stepped onto the road. The world snapped back into place like a breath being released. Sound rushed in, engines, wind, distant thunder. My phone vibrated violently in my pocket as signal returned all at once. Behind me, the exit sign flickered, then vanished. They found me at dawn, sitting on the shoulder of Route 17, shaking and crying and laughing all at once. I could tell them my name this time. I could tell them where I was from. Some things never came back. My wife's face is still blurred around the edges. My father's voice sounds wrong in my head. There are gaps I don't try to fill anymore. But Marrow Glen, that I remember perfectly. And here's the part that matters, the reason I'm telling you this now. 3 weeks ago, I was driving home when traffic slowed unexpectedly. A temporary detour sign had been placed along the highway. Bright green, reflective, hand-bolted into the dirt. Temporary exit, 117. No town name, just the number. I drove past it, but in my rearview mirror, for just a second, I swear I saw porch lights flicker on where there shouldn't have been anything at all. If you ever hear this story and feel like you've already been there, if a place you've never visited feels homesick for you, don't answer it. Because towns like Marrow Glen don't die. They wait, and they are very, very good at remembering.